You know that feeling when you're probably right on the edge of a huge breakthrough, but also maybe you're just about to give up because everything feels hard? Yeah, there's an excellent chance that what you're really ready for is a level up, a shift, a subtle but powerful change in your mindset that moves you through the choppy waters you've been in and onto smoother sailing. But how do you know? Well, here are 3 signs that you're ready to level up and actually get your goal. Welcome to the Get Your Goal podcast, the place for ambitious, overthinking women to explore the mindset, emotions, and daily practices that actually move you forward. I'm your host, Paula B., Master Certified Life and Goal Coach, author, ultra runner, entrepreneur, and journaling expert. I'm here to help you understand the science and art of rewiring your brain for success so you can get your goal. Ready to dive in? Let's go! Hello, friend. Now we're moving into the part of the podcast where I'm actually just talking to you as opposed to reading. I want to tell you something about a couple of things that are going on with the podcast right now. First of all, I know it's been a while again because the last podcast that I uploaded, I got flagged on YouTube for copyright infringement, even though, because I had just put new music on. I don't know if you have listened to the podcast recently, but I just put a new little intro and outro on there. I was super happy. I actually, for those of you who have been around a very, very, very long time, the music that I chose is, it's not related at all, like in any manner, but it reminded me so much of the little noise that I used to have at the beginning of my workout videos, like literally a decade ago. There was a little doo-doo-doo-doo-doo sound that I can't reproduce with my voice, but there was this fun little sound that a lot of my very, very, very old videos had on them for years. And so the music that I chose just kind of sounded like an interpolation of that, and it made me super happy, and that's why I chose it. And I very specifically purchased the exact copyright version of it that says you can monetize your podcast. Like, I was super, super careful about this. It's not cheap. It is, relatively speaking, but like, I went out of my way, loaded it up onto YouTube and got flagged immediately. So those of you who are watching and listening on YouTube, I am actually going to upload a different version of the podcast. I'm not going to mess around with this. I'm not going to get flagged for copyright every single time I upload a podcast. That is not fun. I am fighting it, of course, because I have the receipts. I literally purchased this music. But in any event, so those of you who are watching and listening on YouTube, here's my little intro about, hi, this is where we get your goal your way by being more you. This is the Get Your Goal podcast. I don't even have my script in front of me for that, but I'm Paula B. I'm a mindset expert, a journaling expert. I'm a master certified coach, a podcaster, an author, and I'm here to help you be unapologetically you. Also, I think there's a thing at the end where I invite you to join the Get Your Goal membership. Here are the things that when you watch and listen on YouTube will be ever so slightly different. If you are listening in a podcast app, you will hear the produced versions of both of those. But in any event, one of the other things that has been going on with the podcast lately in my own brain, and this is me being an overthinking, ambitious woman exactly like you, is that I really struggle to go from like the hello friend part into here's our topic. It feels very jarring to me to go directly into the topic, even though I want to tell you about the topic somewhat sooner rather than later, so that when you click on this episode, you know you're in the right place. You're always in the right place, but also I want you to know, hey, what you clicked on is what you're going to get. And I really apologize if you can hear that noise. I talk with my hands a lot, and I keep hitting the cord on the microphone. I'm going to put my right hand down, and I'm just going to talk with my left hand now. We'll see what this sounds like. But in any event, I've made the decision to have a very slightly written blurb that helps me and my brain get focused on what I want to talk to you about. I already know what I want to talk to you about. Like the topic part is so easy for me. That has never been the hard part for me. It really is that transition from, hi, here we are, to, okay, let's go deep. Which, if this is a metaphor for my life, it is, because this is something that I think about actually quite a bit. Hey, let's talk about that for a quick second. This is something that I think about a lot when I'm marketing my business. I am not a chit chat girl. I'm not, I do talk about the weather. I actually talk about the weather a lot. I talk about what we're going to eat a lot. I can do small talk, but it's not my zone of genius. It's not where I live. It's not what's going on in my brain. I am not a surface, shallow kind of girl. And I don't mean that that's not true either. Let's talk about celebrity gossip. I am shallow. I can absolutely be shallow. But I mean that my zone of genius, where I love to think and work and live, is deep in a topic. And so I think about that a lot with my marketing. Like, how in the world do I produce a 30-second reel on Instagram that shows you who I am and what it's going to be like to work with me, when that's not what it's like to work with me? Like, that kind of quick fix, here's a tip thing, in spite of today being, a little listicle 3 signs you're ready to level up thing. There is a disconnect between how I see myself and most very quick marketing. It's why I feel so much more comfortable and happy here on the podcast. I know that I can talk to you for as long as you want to listen, frankly, about topics that really matter to me and concepts that feel important. And I'm here to help, honestly. I'm here to help you see yourself in a way that feels best to you. And that's not a tip or a trick or a 30-second hack or anything that's fast like that. Therefore, in order to help bridge that gap from my brain and yours, presumably, from I've just clicked on this title and then all of a sudden, whiplash, here we are deep in the topic, I've decided to write a little quick 1-paragraph blurb. Hey, having given you all of that explanation, would you like to actually talk about 3 signs that you're ready to level up and actually get your goal? Awesome. Cool. Here we go. Here's the thing about getting your goal. Here's the thing about getting any goal. This is for you if you are getting any goal. Literally, any goal. All goals have what I consider, and what everybody would consider, 3 levels of like getting there. Back when I used to be a weight loss coach, I actually have, do I have an entire podcast? I know for sure I talked about the first 5 pounds. I know for sure I talked about the last 5 pounds, but I don't remember if I ever made a podcast about what I call all the 5s in the middle, all the 5s in the middle. There are 3 levels of every goal. When you are working on a weight loss goal, it is very convenient to talk about, the beginning, the end, and the middle, and not in that order, but it's very convenient to see it that way. When you are working on other goals like your business or running a race, training for and running a race or writing a book, it's a little bit harder to break it down into like 5 pounds increments like that. But what I want you to know is that there is always a beginner, an intermediate, and an expert level. And in order to get your goal in a way that feels most like you living your best life and therefore will produce a permanent result for you, you will level up from the beginner phase. And don't take that as anything other than a word that people use. I don't love being called a beginner, and that's why I'm stopping and interrupting myself for this. Many, many, many moons ago, I used to do a oh my gosh, I can't even think of what it was called. But it was basically like a weekly training plan. It was a little freebie that I put out. Oh gosh, this was so long ago. That was at least 7 or 8 years ago. At least, that I used to put out a weekly little freebie that, here are the workouts you can do this week. And here's what you can do if you're a beginner. And I had so many people be like, I'm not a beginner. Thank you. And I was like, yeah, I know, me either. But also, I mean, you can't be an expert without being a beginner first. But I think lots of us really rankle at that word. So what I will actually call it for you here on the podcast is you are in the spaghetti phase. And I say that one because sometimes when it's just a little bit silly, it can help you not hear it as some kind of personal attack. Although maybe you hear spaghetti as a personal attack when I tell you that it's a lot like throwing spaghetti at the wall. That first phase is when Yes, you have the knowledge to get moving. Yes, maybe if you've been working on this goal for a while, you know what you're talking about, you know what you're doing. But also, here's the thing about what I'm calling this spaghetti phase. There's an amount of just trying to do things to see what's going to work that you are doing that really is figuring it out, that really is trying on a lot of things for size. And there are those of us, and I will raise my hand here, who really kind of like shame ourselves for being here, who feel bad about that phrase, figuring it out, or bad about that phrase, trying, or like really struggle because like intellectually we know exactly what we're supposed to be doing, but also we can kind of seem to make ourselves do it. And then we worry about whether or not it's willpower or whether or not it's us and whether or not we're ever going to get where we're trying to go. Like, that's what I mean about that spaghetti face. It feels like a mess. It really does. And there's nothing wrong with being there. You literally cannot move on from there until you've been there. So being aware that there is an amount of time that's going to be that beginning phase, that spaghetti phase, is part of leveling up. The next phase, the intermediate phase, I call this one like more like the consistently phase, the mostly consistent phase, because you are mostly consistent. It's right there in the title. Like you've got some things figured out. You know what's happening. You know the mechanics of getting where you're going. You can do things in a way that feels mostly good, not a lot like willpower, but sometimes you're still kind of like, okay, I got to buckle down. I got to make myself do this. There's an amount of consistency that feels good. And then there's also this thing where you still kind of get thrown off your game sometimes. And it's not all that hard to throw you off your game. Like if you're out of your routine or you miss a couple days, there's just that, now I got to get back to it. Now I'm back at square one, but also I'm not at square one. Like, again, this is why I call it the mostly consistent phase, is because you are mostly consistent. And it's really good to be able to notice that you are here, that you really do have some of your stuff figured out. Because then when you level up again, my friend, we go into expert mode. And this one, I heard some of you shrinking back from it because of that word expert mode. And I got to be honest, I actually do not have a better phrase for that. And part of the reason why I did not call it anything other than expert mode is so that you, my friend, who are here in expert mode and trying very hard not to acknowledge it, can hear that word and really hear what you're making that mean about you, about other people, about whether or not you're allowed to call yourself that, and about what that means about you as a person, because that really is part of the exploration. It really is part of being in expert mode, where you are stepping into the person who has your goal. When you have created your goal for yourself, your way, you are an expert at that thing. And let me clarify, because I know a lot of us think that if we are an expert, that therefore we should be able to tell other people what to do, or, be a leader in some way, or other people should do it our way. And that's absolutely not true. That has nothing to do with being an expert. You can be an expert in your thing, your way. It means that you know yourself. You don't have to share your expertise, honestly, with anybody ever. There's never any like moral imperative. Like when you figure something out, you don't have to tell other people. It's completely okay to be yourself. When you understand yourself deeply, when you know what works for you, because it feels good to you, that is your expertise in yourself. Here's the thing about these three levels, is that there is always going to be there's going to be both a push and a pull at every level. There's going to be deep resistance that you are in that level. I mean, hence me having this conversation even about like the word beginner or the word expert. Like there's going to be a part of you that kind of rankles against being here. And there's also going to be a part of you that gets very, very familiar with being there. And it will be very hard to leave where you feel very familiar, even if it feels lousy being there. Like literally, I don't think any of us likes to be at the beginning of something. I don't think any of us likes to be at that point where we don't really know what we're doing and everything feels messy and we're just trying to figure it out and it all feels like such a learning curve and so hard. But also, we get very, very emotionally familiar with that confusion, with that overwhelm, with that telling ourselves that, well, maybe I just don't know enough. Maybe this is just too hard for me. Maybe I never have to really move on from here. Maybe I'm just the kind of person who's perpetually going to be on a diet or not be able to run the way I want to, or never get this business off the ground, or never really finish my book. There is the allure of staying where you are. And that is part of why I even wanted to make this podcast today, so that you can actually see the signs of being ready for a level up in a way that, left to your brain's own devices, you might not move out of. That push and pull is what we are talking about today with these 3 signs. Sign number 1 is that you wobble in between feeling frustrated at where you are and curious about what's coming next. And here's why this is a sign that you are about to level up. And generally speaking, this is the sign that you are about to level up from that spaghetti phase into the intermediate phase, the mostly consistent phase. I almost said mostly considerate, and I have no idea what that was going to be about. Mostly consistent phase. Here's the thing that, here's what your journaling will look like. Actually, this is, I think, the most important part of this conversation is not what you are necessarily doing in terms of like the actions, like sitting down at your desk at 7 a.m. every single day and writing 500 words. Like there's nothing about the strategy there's nothing about the strategy that actually matters, truly. And I say that with so much love. Like your strategy matters to you, but the strategy, like a strategy, is meaningless until it means something to you. So here's what you're going to notice about your own self-awareness, your own understanding of yourself. At that spaghetti phase, you are very likely either not journaling at all, or you're journaling in a way that's more about like venting and just trying to get something out of you. Back in the day, when I very first really discovered any kind of like self-awareness, self-help, self-improvement kind of work. Well, first of all, I was doing no journaling whatsoever. The fact that I became a journaling expert and a journaling mentor, is the irony of that is never lost on me, because I hated journaling. I mean, I had journaled off and on throughout my life, but I had never found like a style or a thing about it that ever felt good, because that's all I wanted. I just wanted to feel better, and I never felt better. I would just vent and still feel at least marginally lousy, or sometimes very lousy about my life. So when you are in that spaghetti phase, you are probably trying on a lot of different kinds of journaling, or just free form journaling or vent journaling. There's nothing wrong with this. Let me be very, very clear. Even after I really discovered like how journaling helps you, there was still that beginner phase where, okay, I see people talking about journaling. I understand what they're getting out of journaling. And yet in my own practice, it was still very, I'm just going to say, sloppy. I didn't have the skill yet of focusing my brain and asking myself to journal in a specific way. And that really is the level up when you move out of that spaghetti phase and into the mostly consistent phase, is you start getting mostly consistent with your brain. too. You, my lovely overthinking and ambitious friend, the thing that moves you out of the spaghetti phase and into the mostly consistent phase is the ability, the skill to start focusing your brain, to start asking yourself to do something, and then to start following through on that, to start working through the things, the thoughts that are in your way. And yes, what I'm telling you is that the level up out of the spaghetti phase and into the mostly consistent phase is the Daily 3 journaling framework. If you haven't heard me talk about this before, please check the show notes or the, what's it called? I was going to call it the comments, and that's not it. The description box. I was so deep in my topic. Now I'm trying to think about what's YouTube? How does podcast work? Please check the show notes or the description box to go watch the Daily 3 Masterclass. It will explain to you exactly how to focus your brain. When you focus your brain and start a feelings practice, because that's what the Daily 3 is, it is a focus of your brain and a focus of your body so that the two of them can work together, your thoughts and your feelings working together to produce aligned action, aka more consistent action that actually feels good. It gets you out of willpower and into your, I call it your hell yes, your big yes energy. The thing about being here in this mostly consistent phase is that you are working on focusing your brain. You are working on your feelings practice. You are working on the observation of where you even are on your way to your goal. You're starting to and working on developing the skill of seeing yourself in the future, like planning for where you will go, both on the big scale of, I call it future self-journaling, where you see the big picture, the goal finished, the either literal or metaphorical finish line that you might cross, or your published novel, or your business thriving, or you at your goal weight, or you thriving through grief. Like these are the goals that I talk about in my guided journaling experiences. Again, when you watch the masterclass, you'll learn all about the guided journaling that I have for you that can help you practice this skill. The Daily 3 journaling framework helps you here in this mostly consistent phase get more and more and more consistent with yourself. Let me actually talk to you for a brief moment about that word consistent, because I know for sure that I've had several other podcasts about this, and this is something that I've really started thinking about very differently. There are a lot of people who want to talk to you about consistency, and they want to talk to you about consistency means that you're doing what needs to be done every single day. Like it's the grind. It's you're going to work out, or you're eating what you need to eat, or you're sitting your butt in the chair and getting those words written, or you are marketing every day, or you are doing whatever it is, whatever it takes to get your goal. That kind of conversation around consistency is focused very much on your actions, which is why lots of us end up using willpower to will our way into those actions. We try to make ourselves behave consistently as opposed to understanding what true consistency, well, first of all, what true consistency even is, and second of all, how to produce it. True consistency is consistency with yourself. It is alignment of your thoughts and your feelings producing actions that feel best to you. This really is the tagline of this podcast. It's your goal, your way, by being more you. The more you understand yourself, the more you understand your thoughts and your feelings and your actions, the more you will be able to produce the result that you desire. Consistency with yourself might not actually look like doing the darn thing every single day, says the girl who puts out a podcast when she puts out a podcast. I put out a podcast when I have something in my body so hot that I have to sit down. I don't have to. That's the whole point of what I'm saying here. I am so internally compelled to talk with you about this topic that I wouldn't even want to hold myself back from it. I do not churn out a podcast every single Tuesday or whatever it is because I have to, or because my business demands it, or because it's good marketing. I sit down in my podcast chair when I am fired up to talk to you about something that will help you get your goal. That is my internal consistency. The podcast comes out when it comes out, but it comes out with my quality, my fire. That's what I'm talking about with you, with your consistency, trying to make yourself do the same thing every single day if that doesn't feel good for you. Really quick note here for those of you who have been around for a while, because yes, that was absolutely my message forever. Do the same thing every single day because it's easier. That is a mindset superhighway for me, but not for everybody. It took me the longest time to see that. It took me years to understand that the advice that I was giving was really easy for me. It was a mindset superhighway for me. And it is for an amount of people that made it seem like, oh, this really works. And that therefore I got plenty of feedback like, oh my gosh, as soon as I could, make myself do the same things every day, it made it so much easier. And here's the thing that I have come to understand. Trying something on and working at it and getting consistent, like having that consistency of action, can really help you understand yourself. Understanding yourself isn't just in your mind, and it isn't just in your feelings, and it also isn't just in your actions. It's about taking the time to pay attention to all of those things, your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions lining up together, understanding all of them. There are plenty of times, and you've certainly heard me say this, there are plenty of times that I have had to do something. I have had to have the action phase to understand what I was thinking and how I was feeling and whether or not this was for me. I have to go too far to find my moderate. I will stand by that because I have found that that really works for me. When you understand yourself, when you get that consistency with yourself, you will be ready to go expert mode. And here's the thing about expert mode. You are probably closer than you think. You might already even be there. So actually, here's the thing. I started this whole podcast talking about here are the 3 signs, and I've only given you one. The second one is when you feel a fire and a motivation that's not just urgency to get away from where you are. Here's that push and that pull again. So many of us, for so much of our lives, have operated from urgency and avoidance. Like we get taught this from the jump, from very early on. Don't do something because is honestly, it's what we all hear all the time. We have so much urgency to get away from uncomfortable feelings that we just respond to it constantly. Being able to sift through a lot of what feels urgent is part of what the Daily 3 really does for you. The Daily 3 is a feelings practice. When you practice feeling your feelings on purpose, you will stop avoiding and resisting them as much as you have throughout your life. We've all been socialized. I'm just going to go ahead and say that as a blanket statement. We've all been socialized to avoid our feelings. We've all been told that you should be logical and you shouldn't listen to your feelings. We have so much socialization that feelings are bad that it actually takes a skill set, a practicing of the skill of, first of all, even acknowledging that you have feelings, and then second of all, feeling them on purpose. I'm hitting the cord again. I picked up my right hand. Okay, I'm going to sit on my right hand, and I'm only going to talk with my left hand. This is very difficult for me. Here's the thing about practicing feeling your feelings. The more of them you are willing to feel, the less urgency you will have in your life. You will be amazed at how calm you actually feel most of the time when you are not avoiding and resisting your feelings. It has stunned me. I used to be, and I'm going to go ahead and put that fully in past tense. I used to be the kind of person who went from fire to fire, who created chaos in my life, who had a lot of drama in my life because I was avoiding and resisting all of my feelings all of the time. The more I am willing to feel my feelings, and I have been working on my feelings practice for several years now, I have felt at least one feeling, intentionally felt a feeling every single day for, gosh, how many years now? 2 or 3? And before that, yes, it was more sporadic. I was in the mostly consistent phase where I was feeling my feelings. I was journaling more or less every day. I was feeling a feeling more or less every day. I was mostly consistent. And then I popped into expert mode, and here I am. I feel my feelings on purpose. Now, does that mean I never resist them? No, that does not mean that at all. Does that mean I never avoid them? No, that does not mean that at all. It means this here. I personally feel a fire and a motivation that is not just urgency to get away from where I was. I feel a fire and a motivation that feels like my big yes, my hell yes energy. I can tell the difference between, I'm trying to squirrel away from something, I better go do something, I better record a podcast because I have to, versus what we were just talking about, this internal, I have something to say and I can't wait to tell you, or rather I can, because I can't wait is also urgency. I know you heard that. That internal fire and motivation. It's really funny, actually, for those of you who care about this sort of a thing. It's really interesting and funny how much of our language is really centered around and describes urgency to get away from, or urgency to avoid, or giving away the power of our feelings to circumstances and other people. Like, being able to even talk about these concepts can feel kind of difficult sometimes because all of the language that we have around it is essentially the exact opposite of how things actually work. When you take agency over your own feelings, when you do this kind of work, you have so much power. So much power. Okay, hey, let's talk about the third thing. You legitimately want to know what's slowing you down. This is what I consider the hallmark of moving into expert mode. This is where I personally believe that coaching can change the game for you. Let me actually interrupt myself really quickly. Here's what I want you to know about getting your goal. The way that I am framing this as, 3, relatively speaking, distinct stages. First of all, they have a lot of overlap. Second of all, you can move in between the stages constantly. There is nothing about this that is like, once you move out of beginner stage, you'll never go back. You'll never feel confused. You'll never feel overwhelmed. That's not true. Once you go into, expert mode, you'll never be mostly consistent again. No, that's not true either. There's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of blur. I like to think about it this way because it feels very organized in my brain, and I love to have an organized brain. The other thing that I really want you to know is that I am framing this for you through the lens of what has worked for me, what I truly believe works. That does not mean that it will work for you. I really love to give you back your own agency. Everything I'm saying gets to go through your lens, gets to go through your yes or no filter. I believe that Sloppy journaling was my first move, and it was the thing that got me out of the morass of I'm never going to ever have what I want, and into, okay, maybe I can, and maybe I'll move forward, and maybe this is how. Even that much traction felt phenomenally better than anything I had ever done before. For me, moving into a more formal journaling where I was asking myself to see my brain, to see myself. At the time, I was using the model, which came from the life coach school in Brooke Castillo. Let me actually give you a little background there. The life coach school, the model, is it's her intellectual property, but it is based off of cognitive behavioral therapy. CBT is famous. It is used not universally by any means, but it is a foundation upon which I'm going to say all life coaching rests. Each of us have our own version of that kind of work. Oh my gosh, even with my left hand, I hit the microphone. Y'all, the struggle is real. I'm going to have to figure out some kind of cordless microphone in order to not be making these noises while I'm podcasting. Here's the thing about my intellectual property, which is the Daily 3. This is what worked for me to help me focus my brain. When you use either the model or the Daily 3 or some other framework, you will actually subtly and not so subtly mold it and shape it and make it your own. And if you ever want to be a life coach, I highly recommend that you turn it into your own intellectual property. Yes, we're all saying the same thing, but also you personally have a way of thinking about this work and using this work that really is unique to you, that could help somebody else. Okay. Here's the thing about moving into expert mode that I found to be the game changer, was having outside eyeballs, a coach, help me see myself, help me see what was slowing me down. And here's the thing about this sign that you are ready. Legitimately wanting to see what is slowing you down is the complete and absolute absence of judgment at the word slow. That you see your timeline as being exactly what it is. It's your timeline. And you see yourself as a person who is capable of going any speed you desire. And you understand that the mechanism of speed towards your goal is you. That your brain, your thoughts and your feelings, not just your actions, your thoughts and your feelings and your actions all in alignment is how you reduce friction and move at the speed you want to be going, which for most of us is faster. Now, if you don't want to go faster, that's completely okay too. What I offer you here with this sign, you legitimately want to know what's slowing you down. This is the point at which there is very little push-pull energy and there is just glide. There is less friction here in the expert phase. Notice I didn't say no friction, but there is less friction. And part of the mechanics of that less friction is that you are not in your own brain trying to go back and forth between observing yourself and being in it and observing yourself and being in it. You offering somebody else outside of you permission to see inside your brain can help you interrupt your own patterns. I'm going to go ahead and say faster. I know that's not an actual speed, but there we go. It is a blurry word that I offer you. Having expert eyes, expert coaching helps you be an expert in yourself. Here's what I mean by this. Here's a couple of things that I mean by this, actually. There are plenty of coaches who tell you that they're coaching you, and they will tell you, oh, your way is the right way, but also here's the right way. And I was that coach for a very long time. Your way is the right way, but also here's how, like really, truly, here's how. And I want you to know that that may not be helpful for you. And therefore, you understanding yourself, whether or not you want coaching and what kind of coaching you desire, is really part of being here in expert mode. When I moved personally out of the mostly consistent mode and into expert mode is when I stopped telling people what to do. It's fascinating to me how different I feel the more I lean into my own expertise of myself. Yes, I have expertise about things. I have written a book. I have moved through grief. I have qualified for the Boston Marathon. I have built a successful business. Like, I have done things, and I can tell you things about those things. I can offer you information about those things. What I cannot tell you is your expertise. I cannot tell you what will work for you. I can help you see it for yourself. This is what a good coach does. Helps you see yourself, helps you see what's slowing you down in a way that you can use. Now, this is not to say that you cannot get all the way to your goal with, again, don't mind the judgment in the word, sloppy journaling. You can. This is not to say that you cannot get all the way to your goal unless you use the daily 3. This is not to say that you cannot get all the way to your goal without a coach. What I am saying is that there is a way that has worked for me that could work for you, that helps you move through these phases and get your goal in a way that, first of all, feels really beautifully exactly like you truly living your best life, and therefore be having that goal. There are plenty of people who can help you get your goal temporarily. These 3 phases and these 3 signs showing you that you are ready to level up takes you all the way to your goal in a way that when you get there feels exactly like you. My friend, this is what I am offering you. And these are, I'm going to summarize it for you, the 3 signs that you are ready to level up. First of all, you wobble between frustrated at where you are and curious about what's coming next. Second of all, you feel a fire and a motivation that's not just urgency to get away from where you are. And then third of all, you legitimately want to know what's slowing you down. My friend, I really hope that this was helpful for you today. Thank you so much for listening. I'll talk to you again soon. If you're getting a lot out of the Get Your Goal podcast and you're ready to take your journaling and mindset to the next level, you belong in the Get Your Goal membership. Inside, you'll find the expert coaching insights and interactive community of other ambitious, overthinking women that you've been searching for. With weekly group coaching, an expansive library of resources, daily accountability, and a safe space to dig deep at your own pace, the Get Your Goal membership has exactly what you need to get your goal. Head over to getyourgoal.com/membership to learn more and join today. I can't wait to see you inside.